If you're looking to move to Mokena, Illinois, there's definitely some things you're going to want to know before you move here that might actually deter you from buying a house in Mokena. That's exactly what we're going to cover on today's episode of Living in the Chicago Suburbs. As always, I'm your host, John Sintich. I'm your go-to for all things related to living in the suburbs of Chicago. And make sure you stick around to the end because we're going to be covering 5 different factors that might actually deter you from wanting to live here in Mokena. I will say at the start, Mokena is a phenomenal suburb. I live here actually with my wife, and we've lived here for the past 5 years. Absolutely love it. But there are some things that when we first moved here kind of took us off guard a little bit, especially me moving from living in the city of Chicago, a very busy, exciting, high energy place to live. Moving from there was a little bit of a shock for me at first, but I can tell you honestly, 5 years into it, I love it. But these 5 things that I'm about to share with you are very important to kind of help you understand if Mokena is going to be the right suburb for you or not. So before we get into the content, I want to thank you all if this is the first time you're visiting this channel. If this is not your first time visiting, I want to thank you for coming back. Again, my name is John Sintich. I am a licensed realtor in the state of Illinois. So if you have any needs whatsoever about moving to Mokena or any suburb of Chicago in general, feel free to reach out to me at any time. All my contact information is going to be on the screen and it's going to be down below in the description of this video. If you reach out, someone from my team or myself will reach out to you within 24 hours. We would be absolutely honored to help you. All right, let's get into the content. So one of the reasons you might want to avoid living in Mokena is that it's a small town. It's only about 8 square miles and the population's just under 20,000 people. Now, relative to some of the other Chicago suburbs, Mokena isn't a very big town. I actually did some research and saw a comment from a resident that described it as the last bit of small town America within an hour of downtown Chicago. So if you're looking for a big, busier area, then Mokena might not be the place for you. It's important to note, Mokena started out as a farm town, a mill town, and it took a while to grow from that. I mean, just 30 years ago or so, back in 1990, Mokena's population was just over 6,000 people. It's not very many. It's literally rumored that people still rode horses around in the 90s to get around. It's kind of a joke, but honestly, wouldn't doubt it. So you got to think the infrastructure and the development of the downtown and the town itself hasn't necessarily caught up to the rapid boom in population growth that we've experienced since 1990. Again, we've seen almost a tripling of the population from 6,000 to just under 20,000. And despite that population boom, Mokena is a smaller town that's based in community. So if you're not looking for that small, tight-knit community feel, then you might want to look elsewhere before you move to Mokena. Okay, reason number 2 you might not want to live in Mokena is the property taxes. Woo! Gosh, the state of Illinois is just well known for having some of the highest property taxes in the entire country. And one of the most frustrating parts about the high property taxes is just the lack of transparency from the local government about where's this money actually going? How is the money being used? That's almost everywhere you look in the Chicago suburbs and Chicago itself. So it's not just something specific to Mokena, but if you are looking in Mokena area, high property taxes are something you're gonna have to stomach. In Mokena specifically, you can plan to spend about 1.8 to 2.5% of the assessed market value of your home in annual property taxes. So if you're looking for a $450,000 home, you can expect to pay about $8,100 or so every year in your property taxes. That's going to be about $675 a month. Now, if you're looking at a $550,000 home, expect to pay about $10,000 a year in your annual property taxes, or about $833 a month. Now, if you're looking at a $700,000 property, you can expect to pay anywhere from $13,000 to $16,000 per year. Now, these figures are all assuming you have a homeowner's exemption in place. And if you're unfamiliar what a homeowner's exemption is, it's basically an exemption that you file with the county that decreases your property tax bill if your property is a primary residence. So if you're using it as a primary residence, you get that little discount off your taxes. Now, if you're unfamiliar about how to file that, just reach out to me. I'm more than happy to walk you through the steps on that. It's very easy. And you definitely want to do it because it can dramatically decrease what you're paying in annual property taxes. So these property taxes, you want to make sure you financially plan for them, include them in your budget when you're looking for a home because it can have a significant impact on your affordability for your monthly payment. And if it's something that you just can't deal with, it might be a reason you avoid living in Mokena. Okay, let's talk reason number 3 on why you might want to avoid Mokena is the restaurants. Now, if you're a foodie, Mokena is probably not going to be the place for you. The reason for that is there's not a ton of restaurants in Mokena. You might find yourself driving to neighboring towns and of course into the city if you really want to up your experience. But you might find yourself looking elsewhere outside of Mokena for restaurants. Now, 10 to 15 years ago, you could probably rate Mokena 1 out of 5 stars with regard to restaurants, but things have definitely gotten better since then. So I used to live in Chicago, like I said earlier, and it's, home to some of the best cuisine in America, really. So I had a high standards moving back to the suburbs. But since I've lived here, I've honestly adapted, and I've noticed some really solid spots in Mokena. There's a place called Bellagio over on 191st Street, just west of LaGrange. It's got really good Italian food. Honestly, some of the best grilled octopus I've ever had. If you're just looking for drinks, Brothership Brewery is a great brewery in Mokena. They serve really good, locally brewed craft beer. And it's just a great place to hang out, really friendly staff. It's an easy place to go. You can bring your kids and just hang out. There's also a place back near Bellagio, 191st and LaGrange, called Legends. Legit, some of the best wings I've ever had, and that includes when I lived in the city. You gotta try the Tennessee whiskey sauce. It's absolute fire. And there's a ton of other good stuff on their menu too, not just wings if you're not a wing person. My wife hates wings, but we go there a lot because they have really good wraps, really good apps, and of course, great drinks. There's also a nice steakhouse here called Mr. Benny's. It's more of an upscale dining experience, and you get kind of the traditional steakhouse vibe and the steakhouse prices, of course. Don't forget, there's also great Japanese. There's Woo's House and Zuki's Japanese Steakhouse if you're looking for some Asian food. These are all really great spots. I've eaten at all of them myself. There's just not a ton of them in Mokena, so you might find yourself, like I said earlier, driving around looking for restaurants in neighboring towns. All right, let's talk about reason number 4 why you might want to avoid Mokena. It's gonna be the lack of high schools. There's no high schools in Mokena. There's actually not a high school located in the town of Mokena. So if you have kids and a high school in the town you're living in is a need for you, then you might want to look outside of Mokena for a place to live. Of course, your kid won't miss out on high school if they live in Mokena. We'll just have to go to some of the neighboring towns. So depending on where you live in Mokena, your kid's gonna go to a school in the Lincoln Way Consolidated High School District 210. Here's the good news. It's a top 20 school district in the entire state of Illinois. So your kid's gonna either attend Lincoln Way East in Frankfort, Lincoln Way Central in New Lenox, and there's a small smidgen of Mokena that's designated for Lincoln Way West, which is also located in New Lenox. Rest assured, they're all really great schools. They're just not actually located in Mokena. So where me and my wife are located now within Mokena, it's about a 5-6 minute drive to Lincoln Way East High School. It's really not a big deal, but again, if you need to have the school within your town, then Mokena doesn't have the high school. Now, definitely you want to do your own research when it comes to schools. If you have kids and schools are important to you, it's definitely some research that you're gonna want to do on your own. All right, let's talk about our last one. The 5th reason why you might want to avoid Mokena, it's going to be the downtown area. A lot of residents, doing my research for this video, I noticed, and I'll say this on my own account because I do live in Mokena, a lot of residents are a little bit underwhelmed with what we have going on in the downtown Mokena area. Again, we have to consider the population was 6,000 people just 30 years ago, so it's taken a while for the downtown to kind of catch up to the demand of our more booming population nowadays. Over the last couple of years, it seems like things are finally starting to make headway in the right direction for that. In the recent years, we've got a place called Zap Taco House that's gone in. It's a great taco restaurant with really good drinks, a great menu, and a really, really cool atmosphere. That's downtown. We're getting a new restaurant coming back to Mokena. It was recently in Joliet, but they're moving their location back to downtown Mokena because they're so excited about what's going on in downtown Mokena. That restaurant's called The Dock. It's going right in the historical building on Front Street. That's gonna be a complete renovation, and that's coming in the next 6 to 12 months. So there are some exciting things happening in downtown Mokena that are on the horizon. As residents, we would really just like to see more of that. So if you need a super happening downtown area with tons of shops, restaurants, and a lot of hustle and bustle going on, and you need that to be the town that you're living in, Mokena might not be for you. You'll want to consider maybe another town because you'll be commuting out of Mokena to find a more lively downtown area for now. All right, guys, that's going to bring us to the end of today's video. I hope you got some value out of it. If you got any value whatsoever from this video, please do me a huge, huge favor. Hit the like button, subscribe to my channel. I make content like this every week about all things Chicago suburbs. Again, if you're looking to move to the Chicago suburbs, reach out to me. I really would love to help you with that process. All my information is going to be on the screen as well as down below in the description. All right, guys, that does it for today's video. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one.